Welcome to Coral Gables Now. I'm Belkis Perez. We are at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden. They've been in the news a lot lately. We're going to head over to their labs and see how experts are growing 1 million orchids in small glass bottles. The City Commission recently joined the Green Corridor. We will explain what that means and how it can help make it easier for you to make home improvements. Plus, we take a tour of Doctors Hospital and the recently completed renovations. And a homegrown talent performs in a major opera. Those stories, plus the amazing views here at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden, you won't find any other place like this one anywhere. Coral Gables Now starts right now. Welcome to Coral Gables Now. I'm Belkis Perez. We're here at Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden at the lab, where for the past year, scientists and volunteers have been hard at work growing very fragile orchids. Orchids like the ones you see behind us that are being grown here and that were once abundant throughout Miami-Dade County. And now the experts here plan on reintroducing them, 1 million of them, throughout Miami-Dade County. Joining us to talk about this massive effort is Dr. Carl Lewis. He's the director here at Fairchild Gardens. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming.
So, you know, this is such an ambitious project. We're very excited because I know there is a Coral Gables component. First of all, let's talk about what we find here. We're inside the lab right now, and I see different glass bottles in different stages, and my first question is, are there 1 million orchids right here?
Well, not yet. So this is about 150,000 orchids in the lab right now, but many of them are really tiny. So this is where they get their start. We start with little tiny seeds, and we grow them up in bottles. Each bottle could have over 1,000 individual plants in them.
Oh, wow.
So, for example, this one that was planted about 3 months ago, it has about 1,000 individual orchid plants.
That's amazing. Okay, so that's why you're able to get so many in one place.
So that's how they start. And then we transplant and transplant as time goes on.
Okay. Now, what was the impetus for this project?
Well, for one thing, we would just like to bring the orchids back. These are orchids that were here 100 to 150 years ago. On all of the hardwood trees, all the oaks and mahogany trees. They would have been loaded with orchids, and they were lost. The trees were cut down, people removed the orchids from the trees by the thousands, and gradually they just started to disappear. So we have hardly any native orchids left here in South Florida. So we'd like to get them back.
And you guys have great pictures of that, where they're being, they're torn out. And what is happening to them? What was the reason back then that this was happening?
Well, when the Florida East Coast Railroad first came to Miami, orchids were one of the first natural resources to be exploited. They were ripped out of the trees just when they were coming into flower. They were put into pots and sold around the United States as disposable houseplants. All
right, Doctor, so, I have orchids at home, and I'm not a very good person to take care of them, so I put them on my trees, and hopefully it'll grow there. But tell me about, you're growing it in a very sterile environment here. What does it say for when you plant them out into a natural habitat where so many things can go wrong and you have no control at that point?
Sure. Well, these are the native orchids from South Florida, so they're adapted to our growing conditions here. They should be a lot tougher than the average orchid. Okay. They can withstand the dry season, they can withstand the hard rain and the rainy season. These are very strong orchids.
Okay. So the reason that you're doing it, you have such a sterile environment here is?
Well, these orchids need to be grown in these bottles with artificial growth medium that makes all of the seeds germinate. We can get over 1 million individual seeds out of just one orchid seed pod.
Wow.
But in nature, most of those seeds wouldn't make it. They have to land in just the right environment, the right growing conditions. We can create those growing conditions artificially in these bottles, and that makes all of the seeds grow. That's what gives us the numbers that we have.
So we see that it's color coordinated here. Give us a little bit of a description of what is going on.
All right, so we'll take seeds. We take a seed pod and we open it up. We'll get maybe 1 million individual seeds out of just that one seed pod. We plant those seeds in bottles. We have one here that was just done a few weeks ago.
And this is what you work with?
That's what the seeds look like. They're like dust.
It's dust. It's amazing.
And they have no stored energy. They have to be grown on artificial conditions that provide nutrients for them to germinate.
Okay.
So we do that in these bottles. You see it looks like dust.
Yes.
Nothing is green. Nothing is growing.
And this black thing is like the nutrients.
That's the nutrients. It's the consistency of Jell-O.
Okay.
And then after a month or so, we'll start to see some green emerging, and they'll start to look like little plants.
Okay.
And then they'll stay in these bottles for 3-4 months before they get transplanted to another bottle. That's the labor-intensive part of all of this, because you see these cute little plants. They all have to be separated with tweezers, divided up, and planted individually in bottles. They have to be separated, and we'll plant maybe 50 per bottle and go on. And they'll have to be transplanted again after that.
That is so time-consuming,
and that's why we're
Doctor.
fortunate to have these volunteers that do the labor-intensive part of the project.
Has anything like this ever been done before?
Not at this scale. We have other groups working on some of our native orchids here in South Florida and reintroducing them into natural areas, into some of our state parks and federal protected lands. We're not doing that here. We're trying to grow larger numbers and put them into urban areas.
Okay.
Get them into places where people will see them, where people will become familiar with the orchids that used to be here.
Okay, and we know that there's about 250 that will be planted in Coral Gables alone. That's a great feat for us.
250,000, yes.
250,000, excuse me,
Yes.
you're right.
That's a lot of orchids.
It's a lot of orchids, and we were fortunate to have the first ones planted right across the street from City Hall at Merrick Park. You know, during that event, we saw bucket trucks, we saw volunteers on them planting these, and it's all happening in city swale areas, in public property.
Yes.
On the trees.
Yes.
Is that the same scenario that we're going to see played out now in the coming months?
Sure. I mean, we'll have groups of volunteers planting them out and as time goes on, but we'll also work with the schools around Miami-Dade. So there's a lot of school children that want to take part in this project. Now, they're not going to be going way up into the tops of the trees, but they will be planting them around their schools and then monitoring them. Remember, this is all one big science experiment. So we'll be coming back through Coral Gables and checking on the orchids to see how they're doing, find out what works, and then we'll modify the project as time goes on to make sure we have the best chance of success.
It seems like this is an experiment for everyone, that this is going to be something that will help other scientists, you know, grow from this, expand from this to something bigger.
Absolutely, because the numbers are so great, we
Yeah.
can set up a lot of different conditions for these orchids in the laboratory and when we plant them out in the wild.
And when can we see them bloom? Are they, you know, blooming when you put them up, or
No,
will it
these
take a
orchids
while?
are very small when we put them up. So it takes probably another 3 to 5 years from when we plant them until we'll start to see them flowering.
Oh, wow.
So it's a long-term process. We expect that within the first 5 years of this project, we'll start to get some flowering around Miami-Dade,
Okay, great.
especially in Coral Gables, because that's where we're starting.
Wonderful. We can't wait. A great project, and we're so fortunate to partner with you on this.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you for having us here. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 2 full business days before you dig to avoid damaging buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. It's fast, it's free, it's the law.
Welcome back to Coral Gables Now. We are our Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden. We've moved now to the Tropical Plant Conservatory here. And behind me you see a glass sculpture from Dale Chihuly. It's a beautiful sculpture. It's called the End of the Day Tower. And it's really made from pieces that were left over from other projects at the end of the day. Now, changing topics here, we've got some great hospitals in Coral Gables, and Doctors Hospital is one of those. They recently completed some significant improvements to almost half of the facility, and Diana Herrera had a chance to tour it, and she says there is more to come.
The Doctors Hospital of Coral Gables is happy to announce a halfway completion to their extensive renovation project. Some of the most outstanding areas completed so far include the emergency department exterior and interiors, all of which were showcased at a meeting with members of the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce.
Well, what we're doing here today is we're really showcasing what's happening at Doctors Hospital, the new construction, the new initiatives, the new program, and we're showcasing that to the business leaders here in Coral Gables, the Coral Gables Chamber, and some of our community leaders that are coming out here and having a look at the new Doctors Hospital.
This ambitious project that started 3 years ago aims to renovate Doctors Hospital inside and out, using the latest architecture trends and modern designs that can be already appreciated at the new drop-off area of the emergency entrance. This department has been transformed entirely, adding more space to it, a new layout, new furniture, new patients' rooms, and state-of-the-art equipment and accessories for the comfort of patients and visitors alike. A new nursing station at the heart of all emergency rooms is expected to deliver higher efficiency and faster service.
But I want to say that we're probably halfway through. We've completed the expansion and renovation of the emergency department. We've completed the pharmacy. We've completed the lab. But the interior of the hospital, particularly the patient rooms and the common areas, take a little bit of a longer time because we're still functional and we have to operate. And then we just started the OR project, and the ICU project, and the facelift to the front will start very shortly. So I think we're probably looking at another 3 years and you'll have a brand spanking, state-of-the-art new hospital here in the center of Coral Gables.
Doctors Hospital has incorporated the latest technologically advanced equipment for the radiology department, including the newest equipment available to conduct MRIs and CT scans for the diagnostics of complex internal injuries in the brain and other tissues. The lab work has also been renovated with new and faster analysis equipment, including a new pharmacy that is expected to bring faster and more efficient service to patients.
Well, our pride is to be able to provide exquisite services to the residents and the community of Coral Gables. I live here myself, so I want to make sure that we have the most up-to-date quality care that we can to our citizens here in this fine community of Coral Gables. So we're very proud of doing that.
Doctors Hospital of Coral Gables will continue to provide the best and most outstanding service during the next phase of this renovation. The Doctors Hospital is another institution of the Baptist Health System, ranked among the 10 best health providers in South Florida for the last 3 consecutive years. Reporting for Coral Gables Now, Diana Herrera.
All right, thanks, Diana. It's a great orthopedics hospital. In fact, the staff there works with almost every sports team in South Florida. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now.
Take a pop quiz with me. In what film did I feel a need for speed? What was my call sign? Who did I sit behind in the F-14? Oh, and one more question. Who does your kid sit behind in homeroom?
Know what really matters. Know about your kid's school and know about your kid. Find out 100 ways to know more, do more.
Each year, smoking leaves 31,000 children fatherless.
On City News, thanks to a group of committed residents and their great fundraising effort, the Alhambra Water Tower is now restored. And there's a plaque that was recently unveiled honoring them.
The Save the Alhambra Water Tower Board dedicated a good portion of their time hosting fundraising events to raise $70,000 toward the strengthening and rehabilitation of the historic water tower. The group's efforts were recognized when the city unveiled a plaque in their honor. The plaque was mounted at the foot of the tower. It's official. Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden is one of the top 10 most beautiful public gardens in North America. That, according to USA Today. Fairchild is one of only 2 tropical gardens selected. The garden's world-renowned plant collections feature palms, cycads, orchids, tropical fruit trees, and more. and the Public Works Department is currently testing an environmentally friendly material in the swales. The pilot program involves using a green product in the swales under the grass in order to prevent erosion and flooding.
And there's a new way that you can finance your green home improvements. The city recently joined the Green Corridor for residential properties, and that means if you were having problems finding the funding for your improvements, it's going to get a lot easier now. Joining us to talk about that is Rafael Perez. He is the regional manager at Y Green Energy Fund Florida. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the opportunity, Belkis.
Tell me about the plan.
Well, Belkis, the city joined a program that's going to allow property owners that want to do retrofits to their property that fall within renewable energy, which would be solar, energy efficiency upgrades, which would be your AC, your insulation, your water heater, and lastly, hurricane protection measures, like it could be a brand new roof or your impact windows, and you could finance it through your property taxes for a maximum of 20 years.
So the good thing about this is that it's really difficult now to get a loan.
Absolutely. Since the crash, it's really hard to get a home equity line. Most banks are not giving you that, and those are the uses where you use that money to do an improvement. So to qualify for the program is very simple. It's a city program. It's backed by the city of Coral Gables. You just need to have 15% equity in your property, non-delinquent on your taxes in the last 3 years, non-delinquent on your mortgage, and no bankruptcy, and you qualify.
Right, so you don't go through your credit.
It's not credit. It doesn't affect a person's credit. It stays with the property. There's a lot of benefits. In a lot of cases, the savings surpasses the financing cost. We've seen examples where people won't replace their AC because they say it still works, but they're really spending dollars, more money. So by them replacing it and the financing cost being lower than the savings, it's a beautiful thing. And in a lot of cases, for the hurricane protections, getting your impact windows, doing your roof, your insurance will go down. So there's a lot of benefits to this program.
Yeah, and even though hurricane protection is not really a green initiative, you do save money because, for example, my windows, I need to replace them regardless. They're not hurricane protection. But I noticed that I do get some AC that goes out. I mean, it's not perfectly sealed. So it's the
building envelope, they call it in the industry. Sealing the building envelope so you don't lose energy.
So it's still, we talk about a lot about it being good for the environment, but there is a financial component. You are saving money on this.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great program. We look forward to people calling us and learning more about the program.
So what happens? It goes through your taxes. Tell me about the paying back of this.
Yeah, so it gets charged to your property tax as a non-ad valorem assessment. If you ever look at your property tax bill, in the top portion you have ad valorem, which is based on what the property appraisal sets, and the millage, and the bottom is non-ad valorem. In some cities, you'll see your trash pickup placed there and stuff. So it's just an installment. You get to choose 10 or 20 years to pay this back. It'll get placed there, and every year you'll be paying this back.
And it's just one lump sum a year, and so it gives you an opportunity to save up for that.
Exactly, one lump sum of that installment. Another benefit is you'll get the improvements today, and your first bill wouldn't be till 2015. So you're almost getting a whole year and a half before you have to make your first initial payment.
Which, if you take out a loan, if you're fortunate enough to take out a loan, you'd have to pay right away.
Immediately. There's no verification of income, no verification of your work. It's just those 4 criteria we said earlier.
And to get this loan, how long does it take?
People are getting approved within 2 or 3 days. I mean, this is really working out. The city of Coral Gables is one of the members of the other 6 cities that have joined. Miami Shores is being very successful. Palmetto Bay, Pinecrest, Cutler Bay, and South Miami are participating. And a lot of residential property owners are very ecstatic about this.
All right, well, thank you so much. It looks like a great program, and we hope that residents do take advantage of it. This is new because what we had was the businesses that were already approved for this, but now residential properties as well.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and hopefully we don't see no more blue tarps in Coral Gables.
Yes. All right, thank you, Rafael. And if you want more information, you can go online, and the website is www.cleanenergygreencorridor.com, or you can call Rafael at 305-569-0015. And we'll be back with more of Coral Gables Now.
Buried utilities are often out of sight and out of mind, but digging into one can be costly and dangerous. That is why you must call 811 2 full business days before you dig. 811 will alert your local utility companies to mark their buried lines so you can avoid damage and injury. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. It's fast, it's free, it's the law.
Welcome back. In order to make our parks, open spaces, and popular destinations more accessible on foot and on bike, the city recently completed a bicycle and pedestrian master plan. Now, joining us to talk about it and to give us an overview of the plan is Sonia Sukat. She is the environmental specialist for the city, and Sonia actually worked with the consultants to get this plan going. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I did. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little bit about the reason that we created this plan.
So we realized that the city of Coral Gables was such a beautiful place to bike and walk through the city with our shaded streets, with our trees everywhere. We have a lot of areas that people are trying to get from one destination to another, to view canals or waterfront areas. And so we realized that we needed to come up with a comprehensive plan to really see how to better move people through the city using their bikes, walking through the cities. And so we analyzed it, and then we came up with a series of recommendations.
Okay, and you know, and it's true, we do have residents who are much more conscious and really want to use more of our bike lanes, and so enhancing that is a priority.
Absolutely. We found nearly 30% of people in the city actually live and work in the Gables. So they, so you know, there's a tight network there within that. And within that, we found that nearly 18% of those people are using some form of public transportation. So either they're using the trolleys, or they're biking, or they're walking, mostly because it is a very tight, connected city. 20% of them are also walking or biking for their daily travel. So based on those numbers, we found that there was a need to kind of invest in our infrastructure, specifically for pedestrians and cyclists.
So what's the focus of the plan? Were there any areas in particular that were looked at?
There was. We looked at popular destinations, everywhere from the commercial and business district, you know, that make up Miracle Mile, Ponce de Leon, Boulevard. We looked at areas in the Northwest residential area. We looked at University of Miami, which has a strong population of students that actually use their bikes and walk around, whether it's campus or they're going, you know, they want to go downtown. And so we looked at including them in the plan, certainly crossing big intersections and making it safe for people to walk and cross those areas. And then, of course, pulling down into the south areas of, you know, to better connect us into places like Fairchild Gardens, through Cartagena Plaza and Old Cutler Trail. So.
Okay, and it's true what you were saying. I mean, in UM, I think freshmen are not allowed to have cars. Everyone has to have a bike, so that's very interesting. That's their only way of getting around, so that's very cool that you looked at that. So once you focused on those areas, were there any opportunities that came to light?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the way we reviewed them is that we actually had, our consultants had a team of people go on their bikes and walking around the city. It was called a handlebar survey. And so they identified how to connect to these locations. And they'd stop, they were reviewing the sidewalks, the conditions of the sidewalks, the crossings of those major intersections. And then they came back. So we reviewed about 44 miles worth of road. And within that, again, so there were recommendations to better connect. We also have existing bike lanes in place. There's about a little over 10 miles within the city. So we wanted to make sure that we could, you know, connect and link up immediately. So, you know, connecting those spots, that was very important for the city. And so based on all of these review and the data collection, we came up with about 23 proposed routes to better connect the city.
Let's say in the next 5 years, is there anything that we'll be able to see?
Yeah, I'm sure the residents in the community will start seeing improvements along a lot of the sidewalks. You're going to certainly see different types of bike lanes. There's a few that were proposed depending on the roads that are in existence now. We were definitely looking at spaces that we don't have to widen so much, so looking at wide roads that we would just be able to create a simple bike lane, co-sharing spaces where it would be bikes and pedestrians comfortably moving around. And so I think residents in the community will start to notice these bike lanes, and I'm hopeful through education and outreach that we do as well, is that people recognize and slow down as they see people moving around the city through bikes and also crossings. So
you bring a very good point out, because we've got a lot of parks and other open spaces and more recreational areas where people tend to congregate for exercise and walking and biking, and they're not necessarily for that reason. And I think the plan looked at that as well, how to make it safer for people who are there for recreational reasons, but also, you know, there to walk and just get some exercise.
Yeah, people want to be outdoors. People like to do exercise. They like to bring their families, but the last thing they want to be worried about is being hit by a car. And so we put those destinations into the review. We're studying them specifically, you know, areas that, like you say, people are going to anyways. They're walking, they're biking, different golf courses, and trying to blend and benefit both parties and groups. So certainly we looked at Granada Golf Course. That's a very high destination of different areas of people walking and biking. We're looking at different parks. You know, Ingram Park is about to open, so that's certainly an area where a lot of cyclists congregate before they go on to areas, whether it's in the city or outside of the city. So, you know, we're looking at parks to accommodate both of that.
All right, thank you, Sonia, and we look forward to seeing how it all unfolds and we start seeing these bike lanes. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now. And finally, a young Coral Gables resident says it is Broadway or bust. Elizabeth Bengochea is just 10 years old, and she knows exactly what she wants, and she is determined to make it happen. And as you'll see, she is on the right track.
Tosca is a timeless Italian opera that has inspired memorable performances from many of the opera industry's leading singers. So as you can imagine, landing a spot on this stage is a big deal. And that's exactly what 10-year-old Elizabeth Bengochea did. The Coral Gables resident auditioned and was selected as one of the choir boys for the first act.
But I was extremely excited and I was really happy, and I could barely sleep at night thinking about, wow, I'm going to be in the Arts Center in an opera again.
This is not her first professional experience. In fact, Elizabeth has been on several stages, including in her own backyard at the Actors Playhouse in the children's production Madeline's Christmas.
Really fun. It was amazing. Everyone was really nice, and it's just really fun to see people really, really happy. Because after the show on Saturdays, we would sign autographs and they would thank us.
Little did she know when she accepted the role in Tosca, it would be her most challenging, testing her dedication to succeed against all obstacles.
I was extremely excited, and then 3 days later, I broke my leg. I guess I took the term a little too seriously.
Despite her condition, she persevered. After all, the show must go on.
It helped me a lot because now I feel like I can do anything, because if I can go on stage with a broken leg in a lot of pain, then I can really do, it sets my goals higher.
Elizabeth learned how to turn a bad experience into a positive life lesson, putting her one step closer to her ultimate goal.
Broadway.
All right, and we wish Elizabeth the best of luck. That does it for this edition of Coral Gables Now. I hope you enjoyed Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden as much as we enjoyed being here. Remember to watch us on YouTube. That's www.youtube.com/Coral Gables TV. You can also catch us on Comcast Channel 77, and now you can even watch us on Uverse. Just go to channel 99 and select City of Coral Gables from the menu. We'll see you next month.